Hello, I'm Jason Stone, the Division Head of Arts and Sciences at OSU OKC, and I'm delighted that you chose to invest in yourself and attend to the next video in our series about the habits of the mind. In this video, we're stressing the importance of working interdependently, or thinking interdependently, or being a member of a good team. One of my favorite books is a book that was written by a gentleman named Patrick Lencioni, and it's called The 5 Dysfunctions of Team, and a leadership fable. And one of the things that I really like about the book is that the first half of the book is nonfiction, and it kind of talks to you about teamwork and working interdependently and thinking interdependently with other people. And then the last part of the book is a novella, about a 130-page short story about these principles at work in an organization. Most of Patrick Lencioni's books are that way. So it's a great blend of fiction and nonfiction. Teamwork is important, and you as an individual are going to be asked to be a member of teams for the rest of your life. One of the most, hated types of educational experiences in most college classes is group work, or being assigned to a group and not having an opportunity to choose your teammates. One of the reasons that that's so hated is because not a lot of teams function very effectively. In the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Patrick Lencioni's book and about some of the things that he has to say about teamworks and about how a team can function more effectively and about working interdependently as a habit of the mind. Patrick Lencioni has this pyramid, and he talks about each one of these 5 things as being a thing that makes a team dysfunctional. For instance, the very first is absence of trust. You don't really trust the other people around you. You might delegate them a task, but then you don't really think that they're actually going to follow through on that task, so you go ahead and you do the task anyway. The second one is the fear of conflict, and oftentimes in organizations, everyone places such an emphasis on being nice and getting along that no one really holds anyone else accountable for when things don't go well. The third dysfunction is a lack of commitment. And Patrick Lencioni says that once you have a fear of conflict and the absence of trust, that the organization kind of devolves into people just putting in their time. They're going to work, from 9 to 5, and that's all you're going to get out of them. They're not going to be highly motivated employees who are going to take it to that next level and develop an ownership mentality. The fourth dysfunction of team, talked about in Patrick Lencioni's text, is the avoidance of accountability. And once we've all decided we're not going to trust each other, we're afraid to conflict with one another, none of us have any commitment towards the organization, then we all take turns avoiding being accountable. And it works pretty well if I don't hold you accountable for delivering what you're supposed to deliver. You don't hold me accountable for delivering what we're supposed to deliver. Nobody's holding anybody accountable, and pretty soon the organization devolves into dysfunction. And that's the last of the dysfunctions of team that Patrick Lencioni talks about, and that's inattention to results. So let's talk about each one of these, and let's talk about some of the other sort of behaviors that are associated with those. So absence of trust, we already defined that. Oftentimes when people don't trust within an organization, it's because there are people who are invulnerable within the organization. Those people feel like no matter what happens, no matter how bad a job they do, they are chosen within the organization and they're untouchable within the organization. And when they start to feel invulnerable, everyone else begins to develop this lack of trust. So are there special people in the organization? Are there people who, have kind of a nepotistic relationship with the owner or with the leader of the organization? If so, those people may feel invulnerable within the organization, and them projecting that invulnerability outward towards others leads to an absence of trust. Next is, because we fear conflict, we have artificial harmony. And that is where we all just kind of smile and get along, and no one's really able to put real dysfunctions on the table and say, hey, guess what? This in this area, that's not working and it's broken and we need to fix it. Instead, we just have a lot of artificial harmony. The next part of lack of commitment is ambiguity. If things are ambiguous and you're not receiving detailed directions, if you're not being told exactly what you ought to be doing, if the goal of the organization is nebulous and it's just as effective for you to do this thing as it is for you to do this thing over here, and you're not really ever given any direction, then you're working in a very ambiguous working environment. And ambiguity and not telling employees exactly what's expected of them oftentimes leads to a lack of commitment. When we have an avoidance of accountability, that's typically associated with the dysfunction of having low standards. In other words, whatever is produced is acceptable, and we don't really have a high standard for the work that gets produced within the organization. That lack of standards or lack of high standards and having low standards leads directly to an avoidance of accountability. And then finally, when you get to a point where it's all about inattention to results, the other behavior, the other organizational norm that becomes associated with that is a high emphasis on status and ego. When people feel as though they have a tremendous amount of status and power within the organization and they have all kinds of ego invested in the organization, then you're just going to get even more of the rest of these dysfunctions. So Patrick Lencioni provides a short, actionable, digestible read that shows us about how we ought to interact with each other and how we can work on teams that are productive and fulfilling. I hope that you learned a little bit about teamwork in this video, and I very much appreciate your time and attention. Please join me and attend to the other videos in this series. Invest in yourself and invest in your future. Your mental habits will determine how far you go. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a great day. Go Pokes.